For months now, millions of people around the world have been chanting Free Palestine. Well, I've decided to see Palestine. Welcome to the Wild West Bank. Are you supportive of Hamas?
Yes.
Yes. Of course.
Yes.
Are most Palestinians?
Yeah.
Palestinian people like Hamas.
I'm with the resistance.
Did you see the videos they posted of what they did on October 7th?
Everything.
And you're okay with all that?
With everything they did.
They killed innocent Israelis. They killed... Yes,
No.
they did.
No.
Yes, they did.
Give me a picture for rape.
Do you think Hamas should release the Israeli hostages?
No.
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 Zach Sage Fox is an amazing Jew. This 30-year-old comedian and TikTok star is inspiring. Since October 7th, he has been producing a lot of content full of Jewish pride, standing up for Israel and exposing the ugly face of antisemitism on college campuses, as well as the incredible ignorance and stupidity of the crazy woke morons marching and chanting Free Palestine in cities all across America. A few weeks ago, he practically risked his life, taking a film crew into Ramallah to ask the Arab residents who live there what they feel about Hamas and October 7th. Many found the video shocking and it went viral. It got over 160,000 likes, and he was interviewed on major networks. He spent 30 minutes in Ramallah, and he couldn't find one single person who didn't praise Hamas and their vicious pogrom on October 7th. They all wanted Israel erased from the map, including a mid-aged college professor. I think, to most of my viewers, his discovery was not at all surprising. What was surprising to me, and to many of my viewers, was a follow-up video where he interviewed Israelis about their views regarding the so-called Palestinians. The ones he interviewed harbored no hatred towards them, and were very hopeful that they could live side by side in peace and harmony.
I just got back from Palestine, where I asked Palestinians questions about the conflict. Now I'm going to ask Israelis the exact same question to compare and contrast. Let's hear from both sides now. Do you guys believe that there can be peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis?
Of course. Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you think that a two-state solution could work?
If they wanted peace, it could work.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So you would not be okay with a two-state solution?
Of course not.
Zach himself expressed his optimism towards a better future. Zach is a beautiful person, and I have only respect and admiration for the immense Jewish pride he radiates and his love for his Jewish brethren. But his message is not helpful. In fact, it is this misconception that prolongs our suffering at the hands of our enemies. The fact that Jews don't hate the people who hate them and want to kill them is not a healthy thing. In fact, it is extremely dangerous and self-defeating. The Jews in Israel have been brainwashed together with the rest of the world that basically most Muslims are good, peace-loving people. Of course, there are a few bad apples that we have to get rid of, but even they are not really that bad. It's only that they have been brainwashed or radicalized very recently, and this process could easily be reversed. The Prime Minister himself keeps on repeating this myth. He says that after we defeat Hamas, we will de-radicalize the population, and we will live happily ever after. The truth is that most Muslims in the world are not nice, peace-loving people, at least from a healthy and knowledgeable Jewish perspective of history and of current affairs. Most of them do not believe that the Jews deserve to have their own country. Most of them believe we stole it from the Arabs. Most of them don't believe that we have any historical or intrinsic connection to the land of Israel. You don't have to take my word for it. You could ask Mossab Hassan Yosef, whose father was one of the founders of Hamas, and he speaks about this all the time to whoever is willing to listen. This young man has amazing courage and bravery because a billion Muslims wish he was dead. You could also ask many other Muslims and Arabs who grew up in that culture and subsequently left. But the best thing, my dear brother Zach, is for you to discover this yourself. You see, Zach, the reason why Jews feared much better in Islamic lands than in Christian countries was because until about 100 years ago, the position of most Muslims was as follows. Islam is the greatest religion and, in fact, the only true religion. And because of that, they have to control and dominate the world. However, being that the Jews have some merit, because they believe in one God and reject idolatry, therefore, as long as they lay low and realize that they are second class and agree to be subservient to the Muslims, they can be tolerated. Of course, this was not always the case. Sometimes they were persecuted and killed or expelled from the countries they lived in. But most of the time, they were tolerated if they showed respect and subservience to their Islamic hosts and accepted their second-class status without complaining. But when the Jews started coming back to the land of Israel, and certainly after the state was established, things changed dramatically. Because now the Jews were not second class. They had their own country within the Middle East, right amid Arab Islamic territory. And to add insult to injury, the Jews were actually doing much better than all their Arab neighbors. This situation is not acceptable according to core beliefs of Islam. As long as the Jews keep on fooling themselves that genuine peace is attainable, they will never be safe. Yes, we do have peace treaties with Egypt and Jordan, and thanks to Trump with several other Arab countries. But that doesn't mean they like us. They're just being practical. At this point in history, some of them realize that it's in their best interest from a financial and security point of view to be in good terms with Israel and the United States. I challenge the brave and courageous Zach Sage Fox to travel to Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and even Dubai. Walk around in the parks and in the restaurants and ask the Arab citizens of those countries if they believe that the Jewish people deserve their own country. Point out to them that the Arabs have already 21 countries and the Muslims over 50. Ask them if the Jews deserve one single tiny country. Ask them if the Jews have any historical legitimate rights to this country. Ask them if they accept the historical fact that for over 1,200 years the Jews controlled the land of Israel and that 2 holy Jewish temples stood on top of the Temple Mount for over 800 years before Muhammad was even born. Ask them if they believe that the Jews should have the right to pray on the site that is by far their holiest site. Or rather, if they believe that the Arabs who claim that the Temple Mount is their 3rd holiest site, if they should have exclusive rights to this place, to the exclusion of everybody else, Jews, Christians, Hindus, or whatever. Ask them if they think this is fair and just. Not only do I request of you, my dear brother Zach, to visit Arab countries, I ask you to please travel all over Israel and speak to Arab Israeli citizens in the mixed cities and in the Arab cities. Not only in the so-called West Bank, but in the rest of Israel as well. Please schmooze with the Arabs who are full-fledged citizens of the state of Israel, who benefit from free health care, subsidized education, and are treated as complete equals to the Jews. They're everywhere, in the universities and in every single profession. They are doctors, lawyers, bankers, pharmacists, members of the Knesset, and they're on the Supreme Court. After all they received from the Jewish state, please find out how many of them will tell you point blank that the Jews have a historic right to the land of Israel, and that the Temple Mount is actually called the Temple Mount because 2 Jewish temples stood there for over 800 years. And ask them if it's insanely unfair to consider it a provocation when Jews want to pray on their holiest site. For an accurate picture, you can't just interview 4 or 5 people like you did in Ramallah, because there are definitely many Arabs in Israel that will give you the right answers, especially since they know they are being taped. You're going to need to interview at least 100 people, and in many different cities to get an accurate picture. It is my estimation that in the Arab countries that have peace agreements with Israel, you will still find at least 80% of them who admit to being anti-Semites and deny the rights of the Jews to one small piece of land, which is 1,000 times less than the amount of land controlled by Muslims in the world. The number of Muslims in the world are about 100 times more than the Jews, so that would entitle them to land 100 times the size of Israel, but they have 10 times that amount. The ADL conducts extensive polls every couple of years. They have a website, you can check it out, global100.adl.org. They have found that in every Arab country, 80 to 90% of the people admit to being anti-Semites. My estimation is that a good percentage of the remaining 10 to 20% are smart enough not to admit it. But in any case, the chance of ever reaching peace with a population of which 80% do not really acknowledge your right to have your own independent state, the chance is 0. It's not happening, and we should stop fantasizing about it. There's nothing wrong with making normalization agreements with Arab countries who are willing to do that because it suits them at this point in their history. However, if we have to give up anything for those agreements, it's a dumb idea. Our peace agreement with Egypt cost us October 7th. It is through the tunnels to Egypt that Hamas has built up their enormous military capabilities that has caused us enormous death and suffering. And now the Egyptians insist that Israel give over control of Rafah, the Rafah border, to the PA or to the UN or another Jewish-hating entity. There will be enormous pressure on the Israeli government to do so. Thanks to that peace agreement with Egypt, they now have a massive army funded and trained by the Americans that actually pose a serious threat to Israel. The agreements that we did during the Trump administration also cost us, because all of them insisted that we agreed to move forward on chopping Israel in half and giving it over to the Jew-hating Palestinians. Netanyahu will be under enormous pressure to sign such an agreement with Saudi Arabia. That agreement will not bring Israel 1 ounce of safety, but will cost us dearly, because signing an agreement that we will work towards a 2-state catastrophe only serves to encourage and incentivize the Arabs to keep on fighting until they overcome the stupid Jews who really think they could live at peace with Arab Muslims. I'm sorry, Zach, you're a great guy, but you need to fine-tune your message. It's not only the Arabs in Ramallah that hate us. The overwhelming majority all over the place also hate us. And there's nothing we can do to change that unless we want to give up our sovereignty over the land of Israel. Surprisingly, even the ones that live as full-fledged citizens in Israel, most of them are not our friends. It doesn't mean that there's no exceptions. There are many Arabs who are good people, and many Muslims who are good people, and some who would even risk their lives to save Jews. Thousands of Germans also risked their lives to save Jews, and their memories are memorialized in Yad Vashem. But just like it was in Germany, the good ones amongst the Arabs are a minority. How many? I don't know, but they're not influential. We were under the assumption that most Muslims in America were moderate and peace-loving, until we discovered that even those in the top universities are by and large mostly creepy anti-Semites. Dennis Prager is not doing anybody a favor by promoting on his popular Prager University channel the handful of Muslims who are moderate and peace-loving, because they definitely do not represent the majority, not in America, not in Israel, and surely not in Arab countries. I would love to be proven wrong, so please take up my challenge, my dear brother Zach. But like you, Zach, I am very optimistic for the future, but not because I believe that we are capable of making peace with our Arab neighbors. I am optimistic because in a very short time, Mashiach will come and set the record straight. Until next time, may God be with you.